Oh, time for another quick Coxnotes. As has been my practice so far on these short little videos, I've been wanting to talk about some of the guns that are a little bit unusual. Uh, Not everybody has one. Guns that I've kind of enjoyed, guns that are good for youth to get started with. Uh, as time goes on, I'm going to change this a little bit and we'll talk about other things. But for right now, I've got a couple other guns I want to bring to your attention, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. How many of you have ever heard of the term a smoking gun? I literally have one. It's been my goal in these videos to not only talk about the gun itself, but some history behind the gun and the manufacturers and what have you. This gun that I'm going to talk about today is kind of special, and it is a smoking gun. This is a H&R 22 revolver, and it's a convertible type revolver. It has two cylinders. They're interchangeable with 22 long rifle or 22 Magnum, Winchester 22 Winchester Magnum, which makes it a real versatile handgun. But let me put a little story behind the gun. Back in 1977, my dad, Lester Cox, quit smoking. And it was surprising that he did because he was a fairly heavy smoker and had smoked since his teenage years. And he kind of on his own. And Dad was the type of person that when he decided to do something, he usually got it done. So in 1977, he decided to quit smoking. And he just quit, just up and quit smoking. My mother, for years, had basically been in charge of purchasing Dad's cigarettes. And on a weekly basis, she would go down to the grocery store to do her weekly shopping, and she would pick up a carton of L&M cigarettes for Dad. Now, at the time, cigarettes were selling for just under $5 a carton. So my mother had a knack for saving also. She was she was very good at putting little bits aside and everything. So she decided, unbeknownst to my dad, when he quit smoking, the bank was a half a block away from the grocery store across the street. So every time she went to the grocery store, she picked up the groceries and then she took a $5 bill across to the bank and put it in a special savings account that my dad knew nothing about. And she did this every week, $5 a week, and it represented that carton of cigarettes that he bought or had her buy each week. And then, as the story was told to me by him, he was at a store in Montrose, Colorado, when he observed the H&R Model 650 22, stainless steel. I had many times touted the benefits of stainless steel for me because I have what's called poison fingers and easily leave fingerprints on blued firearms. So, I mean, etched fingerprints, not. Anyway, so he expressed a desire to buy a gun. And Dad was always a natural with a handgun, but he didn't own a handgun. In fact, he told me that the only handgun that he owned years back was a Colt Woodsman, which he sold one time because he and Mom were in kind of financial bind. So he wanted to buy a handgun, and this was the one he kind of wanted. He said, "Well, I wouldn't mind having that." And Mom really surprised him. She said, "I have enough money set aside in a savings account. If you want that gun, go buy it." And he did. So I started calling this Dad's smoking gun. After Dad passed away, then I got the gun. NAR is a very historical company, and they were in business from I think it was 1871 to 1986. They were in business. In fact, another company, H&R Arms Incorporated, I think they call it, then emerged later on. But for the most part, 1871 to 1986, H&R was in business. And this particular revolver here was manufactured in early 1978, not long before my dad purchased it. It's a 5.5-inch barrel. It's also a double action, which is a little bit unusual for this style of gun, but it's a double action, so you can fire it either by pulling the trigger all the way back or cocking the hammer to fire it. So it's a double action revolver. The cylinder comes out rather easily. There's a loading gate on the side here, and by putting it on half cock, the cylinder rotates, and there's a small depression button here. You press in on that with one finger, pull the cylinder pin out, and the cylinder comes out and can be replaced by the other cylinder. Simply a drop in. Put the pin back in, close the gate, and it's ready to go with the option or the optional cylinder. This has a transfer bar. I hope you can see it here. The transfer bar right here, which means that the trigger has to be fully depressed when the hammer comes down or it won't fire. This prevents firing with dropping and what a problem that a lot of the single action revolvers had, where they were 6-shooters, but to be safe, they were carried with 5 rounds in the cylinder with an empty one under the hammer. There's documented cases where the hammer was hit. In one case that I know of, a man was wearing a Ruger single six, the older model, and he was saddling a horse and simply flipped the stirrup back up off the horse after he'd tightened the cinch, and the stirrup hit the hammer on his .22 revolver and caused it to go off. So this one can be carried safe with 6 in the cylinder. It's a fairly accurate little handgun. My dad shot it better than I do, actually, and I was a handgun shooter. But it has fixed sights, which means that you do your own compensation, the Kentucky windage type thing on it. And like I say, a 5.5-inch barrel. Pretty nice walnut stock. It's a pretty well finished revolver in stainless steel. The new company, the H&R Incorporated, was founded in 1991, and they started building a lot of these same style of guns. They had H&R's old designs and patents available to them. So there are some out there that are made by the newer H&R, and I don't even know if those are made in the United States. But that's kind of my Cox notes for this time. I know it's short and sweet, but I thought that maybe it'd be an interesting story talking about Lester Cox's smoking gun. If you have suggestions for me in Cox Notes, I have a lot of fun doing this, and I know that some of them are a little bit amateurish when you compare them to other YouTubes. But frankly, I don't care. I'm having a good time with it, and the people that are aware of it seem to be enjoying it too. So, but if you have some suggestions or something, or you'd like me to comment on something, give me fire me off an email. I can be contacted coxnotes at reagan.com, reagan.com, and I try to answer them all, and I have a fairly good access to some firearms. I'm going to do a few more of these, and then I'm going to do some political stuff and maybe some fishing stories. There's always a story. And one of the things I like about having firearms is there's a story. And I can remember my dad, and I can remember my hunting trips with him. And it's pretty special that you can bring back all those memories and be precise about them. I distinctly remember when he quit smoking, and I was living 500 miles away from him when it happened, but I distinctly remember the exact time when he told me that, his words were, I gave up them damn cigarettes, finally. So, this is Cox Notes. Catch you later.